give me long life. I was 85, December the 23rd.
85, so you were born before the turn of the century.
Right.
Isn't that wonderful?
Wonderful, living in different ages. This is the greatest age mankind's ever lived.
Yes, it certainly is. We have many privileges and advantages. I want to ask you something about your early life in a minute, what the homes were like and the schools and so on. But first, let me get on the record your father and mother's names.
Henry Dotson was my father. Married Ellen Henderson.
Now, all those names sound British Isles to me. They're English or Irish or Welsh maybe, or Scotch.
Maybe we Scotch to Dutch, for all I know.
Well, that's great. Do you happen to know anything about your ancestry line? Does it go back to England? Or if you don't, of course, that doesn't really matter. Let's ask you about your early schooling. You said you went to school with my dad. Where was that?
It was known then as Oak Ridge. Later, it was named Johnson School.
I've heard Dad talk about going to Johnson School.
How well I remember the games we played.
Well, what were some of them?
One of them was Wolf Over the River.
Oh, I can remember that, too. Did you say something like, Wolf over the river, sheep meat and no liver?
I don't remember the winding up. That's cute. We'll say that.
All right. And there was dropping handkerchief and
Andy Over.
Andy Over, yes. Yes, I remember that. Do you remember any of the early teachers you had?
Mr. Dalton Cross was one. Miss Etta Mathis.
Well, Dalton Cross, now, I believe I can recall seeing him around Benton not too many years ago.
Right.
He lived till, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe? Something like that?
Something like that.
I can recall when his wife was in the nursing home, and he would walk every day from one side of town over to the nursing home and visit his wife.
I was sitting in with patients at the hospital, and I'd tell Mr. Cross, just say you're fine. If you can pick up your foot and put it where you want it, say, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, I'm fine, Ruby.
He must have been, of a rather advanced age when he died. I don't recall the exact age that he was. All right, what was your favorite subject at school?
Math, spelling, and English.
Math?
I've forgotten a lot of it, though. I don't use it.
Well, we all forget at times, don't we? But we manage to make one another know what we're talking about, so...
Make yourself understood, and that is the essentials of the English language, right?
Surely. Now, since you liked spelling, you must have enjoyed spelling bees.
I did, very much. Addie Farm was one of my teachers, and we had a spelling match at Oval Heights. We first chose out, and 2 of us, one from each side, didn't miss a word. Then they had freeze out, and when the time come to close out, we were still on the floor.
That's quite a record. Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, that was fun. I needed the band right then around my head.
Perhaps you'd accomplished so much there you couldn't wear a hat. Your head might have gotten so large, huh?
Oh, we moved so fast. The hat would have stayed on our heads.
Yeah, well, how far was Height from here? Was in this part of the world, wasn't it?
Yes.
Not too terribly far. Was Johnson School very far from this place?
No. It's about a mile and a half straight through here to where I was born and raised and went to Johnson School. Mm-hmm. There's one farm laid between this farm and my father's farm. And I could hear the children playing, hollering when I'd go home for lunch. Mm-hmm. I was that close. to the school.
Well, you're one of the few people, Miss Ruby, that I ever talked to that live near a school. Most of them say that they walked 6 miles through the snow every day to school.
Oh, we were fortunate. We were close.
Well, that's very good. There were, sometimes they had contests they called cipher matches. Now, what were they?
They would have problems, and we had slates most of the time. Some of us was fortunate to have a tablet. And we would get the problem, we'd lay it on the table. The first one there got the highest number, you know. And I was in contest with 2 twin girls, Ruby and Ruth Kathy. And I'm not boasting, but it was hard to tell which one would win. And they were younger than I, though, but they were apt.
Very good. And so that provided a lot of entertainment, a lot of interesting things. The school was sort of the center of the community then as now, except the community is much larger today. It's the whole county. But I guess those schools, you had plays, didn't you?
Yes, and I know my father would always come Friday afternoons when we were going to have a play. And I remember the admonition he gave us. This will help you when you come to years of wisdom to be able to say what you want to say. Learn to get up before the few. Then when you do have something to say when you grow older, that man-fearing spirit will disappear.
Well, that was a wise statement. It sounds altogether like a college professor's oration to a speech class today. They say the same things.
We may not use the same words to express ourselves, but I learned God fashions all of our hearts alike. I like to think of that.
All right. Was discipline fairly strict in those days? Did they do a lot of whipping?
Not too much. I got one lick in school in my life, and I pouted for a half a day. I didn't think I deserved it.
Oh, Carrie Redden used to whip me every day, but I'd laugh out loud. She told my parents, says, Ray's not really mean, but says the other boys make faces at him and he laughs out loud.
That's what I got a lick for. They told me I was making the face. I was only looking natural.
Oh, see, maybe you made somebody else get a whipping.
Maybe others were making faces, but I was so embarrassed because I made them to sit on the lazy bench, and they were making faces. It was funny, but I was serious. But she come along with every one of us a lick, and I wouldn't eat no lunch because I really pouted.
Now, I've heard of dunce caps, and I've heard of people having to put their nose in a circle on the board, but I'm not sure I've heard of a lazy bench. What was that?
Well, when we were called up between classes, we were made to sit on the recitation bench. We went forward and sat on the recitation bench to give our lessons.
I remember that quite well.
And if we were called up between time, we were on the lazy bench, and to me that was punishment.
Yeah, it made you feel bad, didn't it?
Oh, feel bad, don't mention it.
After you finished school and became a young lady and I suppose started dating and so on, tell us something about dating customs then. What did you do on a date?
You know who my first boyfriend was?
Oh, I'd love to know that.
James Lee Gray's father, Reg Gay.
Reggie Gay.
Oh, we thought we really were in love.
Puppy love is strong, isn't it?
It's real.
Yeah. Well, James Lee grew up to be a fine young banker. He is now, I guess.
He's a very wonderful person.
I knew Mr. Lee Gay. We lived near them. Lee and Josie was his wife's name. And he had a son named Reedy.
Right. I had Bessie Neal.
Bessie Neal. They were our neighbors. Miss Bessie was beside my mother the night she died. So the Gays have been awfully close to me and great friends over the years. Well, that's fine. Your first boyfriend, you started off at a pretty high level, didn't you?
I thought so then.
Well, I still think so.
Yes, he was precious.
Yeah. Now, I guess he didn't have a car. Would he have a horse and buggy? Or?
Well, we were too young to even think about they wouldn't have let us go on. And if we'd have gone in the wagon with our parents, if we'd have gone.
Sort of school sweethearts, you know.
Very young.
Uh-huh.
No, my first real date become my husband, real date. I had dates, but I didn't know what love was till I met the one I married.
And what was his name?
Duncan Gregory.
Duncan Gregory. Did he grow up in Marshall County?
Oh, yes. We went to the same church. He would go to Maple Spring. He would go to Pleasant Hope. His parents were Baptists, and I was a Methodist, and we all went to the same churches. We just had church once a month. That way we visited and worshiped with different people in the community.
Now, Maple Spring's still in operation, isn't it?
Very much alive. Praise the Lord.
All right. Well, when you married, what did you first do, or what did he do for a living?
He was a farmer.
That was true of almost everyone, I guess, in Marshall County. And
yes.
In those days, and you raised the usual crops, I suppose, what, tobacco and corn?
Corn, tobacco and corn. Put up our own meat most of the time. Raise your own garden.
Tell us about a hog killing. I haven't heard about a hog killing.
Oh, you've missed a lot, Ray. Well, you invited the neighbors in. Neighbors helped each other kill their hogs. They put on water in big wash kettles. They didn't have vats then.
No.
They had big wash kettles, and after they scalded them, they had usually a slide, a big slate had been made by the farmers. They put this hog on that and scraped it and all. Then they put up rails, and they put a pole through there. They hung the hogs on the end of that, and when they gutted them, and Uncle Tom Gregory was one of the best. If he wasn't there to take the entrails out, it wasn't done right. Oh, it was fun. And then after the hog was cleaned and hung a while, then it was taken down and cut up, salted down, and it stayed so long in the salt. Then we took it up, washed it, and hung it up and smoked it. Put pepper and some sugar and cured it by smoking it.
And you had country ham that was mighty good eating, didn't you?
And red gravy and hot biscuit.
Oh, boy. And on hog killing day, while the men were working away at that and cutting up the hogs and so on, the women prepared a meal like you haven't seen in a long time.
And they had fresh liver, fried liver for dinner.
You'd always give each of the neighbors who helped a little of the
backbone and the liver.
And, of course, you had to grind the sausage.
Yes, and the mothers, they grew the sage and the pepper that they seasoned it with. We didn't have to go to the store for much. They'd buy salt with the barrel and use the same salt, carry out and put out to the cattle, salt the meat down. We'll get a jar out for the cooking, make the kraut and everything out of the same big barrel. My father did buy salt with the barrel.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been to those hog killings, and I remember stirring till I felt like I would fall over dead.
That was rendering the lard out.
Rendering out the lard. And then you saved those cracklings to make cornbread, shortened bread.
You're making me hungry.
Oh, that was good eating, too.
Yes.
And when I hear the opera singers sing about Mammy's little baby loves shortening bread, I always think about that crackling bread and how good it was.
And my mother had iron skillet with legs and a big iron lid that put the coals and embers on the top and around it, bake it on the hearth. Now, you're talking about good eating. And make hominy by the kettles. And we'd have ham gravy and hominy. We'd begin eating the hominy before the eyes ever come out of it. Now, kids don't know what making hominy is.
No.
But it was fun.
Oh.
And we come of a big family. My father come of a family of 8. And my mother then, a family of 7. And then our immediate family, my parents had 7 children and took 3 orphans even besides. And we didn't know we was poor people, but we were rich.
You sound like Dwight Eisenhower. He said
Such a compliment.
He said one time that they were poor, but he didn't know it.
I didn't either. I never knew we was poor people.
No. I always thought that was a wonderful statement to make, and it typified that generation of our forefathers.
Right.
They didn't worry about it. They worked hard and thought the Lord would do the rest, I guess, didn't they?
And they were always, you know, the Bible's still true. My God shall supply all your needs, and He did then.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you one other thing I remember about hog killing, and of course, as a little boy, before I got big enough that they made me turn the sausage mill or stir the lard, they would, I'd take a cane. Dad would have a cane for me and whittle that out, and I would take the bladder and blow it up and tie it off and make a balloon out of it.
Well, I remember all the kids in fuss for the bladder.
Oh, they had to have that, and the one that got it was king of the walk.
Absolutely.
Oh, those were the
You
good
just
old
heard
days.
your dad tell all this. You didn't live in our day. You'd had to live in our day to know what it was really like.
Well,
It's all hand-me-downs to you. We can't express it.
of course, I'm a little older than you think I am, I suppose, and I do remember attending those hog killings.
You can dare tell your age.
Oh, I'm 61.
You're younger than my son.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, I was born in 1921, so I can well remember up through up to World War II, we did just about the way you're talking.
How well I know.
We lived next door to Reedy and Bessie in those days, and we still killed hogs together with Corbett Tucker and Opie and my mother and father and so on.
I know. I knew them too. They were real friends of ours.
Mm-hmm. Well, to get back again, you were married, and how many children did you have?
We had 2, son and a daughter, Marshall Gregory.
Your daughter works here now, doesn't
Yes, she's assistant manager and bookkeeper.
Sue Inman?
Inman.
Her husband is?
Maintenance manager.
Mm-hmm. All right, now, you mentioned your son, and where is he?
He lives in Metropolis, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
He works with the EEI.
Electric Energy Incorporated,
Right.
the Joppa Steam Plant.
Yes,
Dalton.
yes. He
Yeah.
could have retired last March, but he still thinks he needs to work.
Do you have any grandchildren?
I have 8 grandchildren, own grands, but I have 2 little step-granddaughters are precious.
Mm-hmm.
2 children, 4 grands, 8 greats. Good.
Well, that's wonderful. When you were raising your family, do you remember any funny things that happened, any amusing incidents that you can think of offhand?
It'd take me all evening to tell all the things.
Well, I'm sure you couldn't tell them all, but maybe one, if you'd share with us. Did your daughter ever embarrass you?
No, my children never owed me any apologies for anything. Mm-hmm. But one thing stands out about Sue. She was about 12 years old. No, 14. My mother was living with us. We lived on the road into the lake. What is the lake now? And I sat at the field in the orchard after some apples and some corn. Mother and I were washing. She wasn't gone long till she ran back and said, Mama, I want Marshall's rifle. I see my dog's got the biggest possum tree, biggest squirrel I've ever seen in a tree, and I'm going to shoot it out if I can. Here she went with her rifle, and she went on and got her apples and her corn. She came back with a rifle on her shoulder, her apples and corn in the bag, and the other hand, what do you think she had?
Possum?
A young groundhog.
She thought it was a squirrel.
She said, Mama, it's the biggest squirrel I ever seen. She's got the biggest head. But she didn't know what she had, and we didn't either. She laid it down and said, now you and Granny name it. We didn't know. We'd never seen a groundhog.
They say they're pretty good eating.
We didn't try it. She got it got in her basket on her bicycle, rode up to the next neighbor's house, the right one, Uncle Jim Searles. He said, well, see, you've got you a nice piece of meat for dinner, a young groundhog. But she didn't dare let anybody eat it. She laid on the road for everybody to see, to know what she'd accomplished.
You know, in the Depression, a lot of our residents of Marshall County went away somewhere else. Did you ever leave Marshall County? Or?
Different times. We lived in Oklahoma, different times. We lived there in 1920.
What did you do there? Work in the oil field?
My husband worked on the pipeline from Caddo Creek into New Wilson oil field. Mm-hmm. And another time we went to Oklahoma. We didn't go to work then. We just went on the visit. We didn't stay long.
You didn't go to the automobile factories of Detroit?
We were in Detroit different times. We went to Detroit different times and worked. My husband worked for Ford Motor Company. Went to work. When we went to the oil fields, we got there one day, and he went to work the next day laying water lines, as I said, from Caddo Creek over to New Wilson. But in Michigan, later, I don't remember what year, he went to work for Ford Motor and worked there quite a while, different times. The children and I would come home. My parents were still living. We'd come home and stay a while, and then we'd go back in the fall. And the last time we came home, we went in business for ourselves with a rolling country store on the truck.
You had a peddler's wagon?
We had a peddler truck. They called it the rolling store.
Well, tell us about that.
That was interesting. And Marshall was still at home then, and Sue too.
Did you have a different road each day?
Yes. One route my husband made was 64 miles from the time he left till he got back.
Now, the women would learn about what time you came by. Did they sell him eggs and chickens? And
they'd have the eggs ready, and children would have a penny or an egg and listen for his horn, because they know he'd have a bushel basket full of popsicles and bubble gum. Mm-hmm. I've heard kids on the route say, oh, we cannot wait for Mr. Gregory get there. He waited on us before we did our mamas. Mm-hmm. And said we'd sit on the log and wait for, seemed like hours to them.
Yeah.
For that bubble gum, you know.
Sure. A real treat to a child and way back in the country and a long ways from...
We had a good business. We really had a good business.
I was born, my dad was renting a farm from Jim Will Barnett, and he ran a little country store. Did you ever know where that was?
Yes, I did.
I've heard my mother say that she'd take some eggs up there and buy whatever they bought, salt, soda, not too much. They raised a lot of it in the garden.
And you know what? A can of salmon was really a treat in those days.
Oh, me. I still love it. The only kind of fish I really like.
Well, that's about the only time we had a chance to have fish unless we went and caught them ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Go fishing in the river, the creek, and get a catfish or something. But salmon was great. Oh, that's the best stuff. Now, at college one time, we were talking about how we used to live, and I said something about that I had had so much ham meat at times that I got tired of it. Well, everybody started laughing and said, you're bragging. Oh, I said, no.
They didn't know how rich we were to have kill hogs and have our own meat with it.
They thought that nobody could ever get tired of country ham.
No.
But in fact, we really did. They always cured the shoulders the same way. And just nothing but salt pork day after day after day, you know. And that, as you say, that can of salmon, that was good. Bologna was great then.
Oh, boy, they did. Have a sack of bologna hanging up, no screen doors. I don't know how we lived, do you?
No, it's a wonder we hadn't died from the flies and so on, but we managed to live some way. Well, that's great. So you ran a store and a peddling truck, and that way I expect your husband knew about everybody in the county, didn't he?
He sure did. He said that was a good way to learn to hold your tongue. He would lay down the sides to his truck and step back while the ladies set out for groceries, what they wanted. There would be Church of Christ, Baptist, Methodist, all around his truck at the same time. Mm-hmm. And he said, I learned not to talk so much, and I've never learned it yet, Ray.
Oh, that's one of the pleasures of life, is talking, isn't it? I guess you couldn't talk too much, though. Our tongue, James says, gets us in trouble sometimes, doesn't it?
I live in the driver's seat, you know. But it don't take the Lord long to throw me in the rumble seat. And there I don't like to ride.
Now, the towns in the area, I guess Hardin was the biggest town near right here.
Oh, that was a big day in our young life. My older brother was known as Jack Dotson. He was about the age of your father. And he and the Barnett kids, Charlie Barnett, Cleve and Grace, was our pals. And every Saturday, Hardin was the place to go.
The train ran there, so
yes.
It was really something. I can remember about on Saturday afternoon around 3:15, there'd be a train from the north come in. And everybody in Hardin met the train.
Wonder why?
I don't know, but I remember a tale that they were telling when I was in college.
Yes, Heavy.
The fellow said he was riding one time through Hardin on the train, and he asked the conductor, says, how big is Hardin? And he said, well, I don't know, but you can count them. They'll all meet the train.
That was the truth, wasn't it?
It was. That was the event of the day.
I know. Well, Hardin's still on the map. Hardin's really coming back, isn't it?
Well, I suppose it has more people than it ever had. But then it had more business.
Yes.
There were... Do you remember those two big stores, Davenport Brothers and Ryan Miller, Ted Pace's store?
I'm Crawford and Gatling. Well, no, wait, that was good. No, that was Hardin.
I think they had that there, but I don't remember it. The names were different in later years.
Yes.
Now, I remember there was cast in the iron there where what I call Ted Pace's store,
yes.
But it said Ryan Miller on it.
Yes, still wore the name of the owners before.
Yeah, and Davenport Brothers had been something else. Maybe it was Crawford Gatlin.
They did. They run Crawford and Gatlin later. The Davenport Brothers did.
I know there was a newspaper there, the Hardin Enterprise.
But you got a better memory than I had. I didn't have time to read the news.
Leona Starks was the editor.
Yes, I remember Leona Starks.
And I can remember Horace Warren's Hotel.
Yes.
And 3 or 4 blacksmith shops.
Mr. Dave Booker was the cashier
of the bank.
Yes.
And chairman of the school board.
And he married Edgar Neal's sister, did he not? Clyde Neal. Right. Dave Booker.
Clyde Neal Booker, I remember, was his wife.
But she was Edgar Neal's sister.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know her family. But I did know their children. Let's see, there was a son who made a doctor named David. And there was Blanche, who was a school teacher. And, of course, there's Joe Darnell's wife in Benton now, Ruth.
Yes, wonderful lady. They're dear friends of mine.
You know them, then?
Yes. Joe Darnell was really a friend to my husband. And after I lost my husband, he really defended me. Things I'll never forget. We built a new home, and I remember one day the house filled with smoke, and I called him, and come to find out the flue that went up through the roof had come apart. Of course, all the smoke was coming down, and Joe come out. and had the man to go up and fix it. But that was a friend in need is a friend indeed. I'll never forget that.
Yes. Well, what do you remember about Benton in the early days? Do you remember anything about what it looked like and how it's changed?
Oh, I was happy, but I've nearly grown. First, I never went to Benton, and I went to my first big singing day. I'll never forget that. I must have been 8 or 10 years old. I don't know, just can't remember the date. But I remember getting lost from my father on the court square, imagine.
Yeah, there were big crowds, though, in those days.
But I remember walking cars and run right up in the court square, up on the courtyard. How did I know? I'd never been there before. Isn't that awful?
Well, we're having the 100th this year.
I know. But, you know, it's not as interesting as it used to be, is it? Because they have cars that come and stay a little while and go elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Used to, when we went, we carried our lunch, went in the wagon, and spread dinner in somebody's yard. We ate dinner because there was no restaurants then. Mm-hmm. We didn't have money to rent to go on there.
And the people allowed you to eat in their yard.
I remember our first trip when we carried lunch. We eat in the yard of Mr. George Lemon's.
Oh.
Off the square.
Uh-huh. And I guess some could eat in the courtyard, but there were too many people.
Oh, later they did. Later they ate in the courtyard.
But
I could tell you funny things happened, but I won't.
Well, go ahead. You didn't swallow a bug, did you?
No. Let's just forget it.
Okay.
I couldn't get it out on the air.
Well, I don't want to embarrass you, but...
It would embarrass me, but it might the other fella.
Tell us about the ministers that you remember as a young person.
Well, Emil Davis was the minister that married my husband and I, and Marvin Davis. And I remember several since then, and some before. Old Brother McKinney, the parsonage was at Olive then. And then later, the parsonage was at Old Birmingham. And Brother Walker was our pastor back then. And then later we had Brother Ware. Well, I just can't think of all of them right now, but we had wonderful pastors.
You thought of a great number, and I appreciate your giving us those names. Do you remember anything about any of the old family doctors back in those days?
I remember Dr. Henson, old Dr. Henson, Elias Henson. And I remember how he used to dose out his medicine. All the medicine was powder form. And he'd tear little squares out of a newspaper, and he'd put what was the dose of this powder in that. And I can just see him how he folded that and crinkled up the ends. Then he tore another piece of paper and laid all of them of one kind on this paper. And the directions were on there, and how they kept from getting them mixed up, I wouldn't know. But they might have did the same thing for everything. I don't know. But we lived through it. We took lots of Epsom salts and castor oil and all those things.
Oh, those stories are precious. Now, you're the first person that I've ever interviewed that told about the physicians tearing up newspapers and putting powders in doses.
Oh, I can just dose it out just like you did. I've watched it so many times. And I think one of the funniest things that happened to a family I knew later, much younger people. And parents then didn't explain to their children how we came about, how we were born to the mother. And so one little girl, the doctor come, and before this, they had little twin girls. Well, the mother got sick, just sick. She wasn't expecting a baby. But the little girls felt they carried the babies in that bag. And the doctor come, and they found the little girl later crying in another room. They said, "What's wrong?" "Oh, I'm afraid the doctor will leave us another baby, and we've got one we can feed right now."
Well, that's a wonderful story, too, and you can just imagine the
I
thought
can,
of it
I can just see
sometimes.
this child how I think it's too much taught to children until they can really understand that if something should be taught so they'd know and they wouldn't be so ignorant.
Yes. Well, you know, we're rapidly coming to the end of our half hour. I want you to get on anything in special that you wanted to include that we haven't talked about, maybe.
I like to think of my grandparents, the wisdom they had, how we could sit at their knees and hear them tell their stories. To them, it seemed as idle tales to them, but it was wisdom to us. I'm beginning to experience some of that now. My grandchildren often say, Granny, have you written anything else in the book you want us to remember? I sat down at one nighting and wrote 6 pages in a double-edged ledger that we use in the grocery, and that's the last. And I don't find time now to write. I'll just have to tell them and they can record it then. But life has been interesting, Ray. I've had a good life. As I said, we were poor people, but we were rich and didn't know it. We had love, and we had the protection of mother and father together. And that is needed so much today. If I know my heart right, my greatest intercessory prayer is for the home life of today. If Satan can uproot our homes, he's got our nation. Home is the foundation for living, we know that. And I love the youth of today. And I tell them not to be growing old with Jesus. Life grows sweeter all the time. And I like to think of my grandparents. They went to church. They didn't go to church like we all do now. And I didn't go to church when I was young. My parents lived not too close to the church. My mother wasn't well. But I like to think they taught us. They're an example, and they did by precept. I like to think of my parents. They taught by example. And I like to think about the lessons they taught me. I didn't grasp it then, but now it comes to me just when I need it most.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Ruby Gregory. It's been a pleasure to visit in your home. That's going to have to be the end of our broadcast for today. I'm Ray Mofield. We've been taping over at Lakeland Wesley Village, the beautiful retirement home on Jonathan Creek embayment of Kentucky Lake. And copies of this are available at the State Archives, at the Murray State University Pogue Library, and at the Marshall County Library. We return you now to your announcer.